I'm a big people guy.
I don't get as many YouTube scrolls in as I used to. Like back in the heyday of like watching 3 to 4 to 5 hours worth of content in a given day.
Afternoon.
You know,
Sometimes it has to be, but
this morning, with the time change, that caught me off guard. I also went to bed tremendously early last night.
yeah, no, for sure.
We can talk about that after this, but I get up, I just start scrolling YouTube, and we referenced this or at least one other time, but Gideon, one of the more popular YouTubers, rising YouTubers over the past year and a half, I'd say 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
Walks away from his 7+ million subscriber YouTube channel. Like he's not posting on that anymore.
What's he posting on?
He actually made a channel that's Gideon, but instead of a J, it's a G. Like just kind of like, I didn't hear him actually talk about the like purpose behind that specifically, but he said like, you know, that's a channel dedicated to God, and not trying to, the only influence he was wanting to have was to get people to open their Bibles more. Like that's kind of what he was saying. But I watched him react to KSI and Logan talking on their podcast on Impulsive.
Gotcha.
JJ went on the pod, and they both were, Mike brought up the fact that Gideon had done that. And they both thought it was really cool. Like they both kind of respected the decision. They didn't necessarily like agree in terms of like Christ per se, as far as like, oh, we want to follow him. But they did kind of just talking about YouTube and like how challenging that can be. Logan mentioned being having an encounter with a fan where they went up to him and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about starting to post videos on YouTube. Like, what would you say is the most important thing? And he was like, just in your mind, like dedicate like a decade to it. Like just before you even like start, like just in your mind, think this is going to take me, I'm in it for a decade, let's just say. And that reminded me of our first episode, which was like, or it was one of the first few episodes where we kind of talked about like, you know, what if this took like us, I think it was 9 years specifically. We were like, what if this specifically took us 9 years? Or I guess the real question is, where would we be in 9 years if we stuck to it? Because the thing with this is like, you never really arrive. Like we've grown from the first episode. But like there is no real milestone that's like, oh, we did it. Like it's just like we've grown.
We just keep growing.
Yeah. Like there will be, you know, 1,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. These are like milestones we can all conceive in our heads, but it's not like
there's never going to be like a goal.
There
like
will still be the next
like
one. 1,000, there's still 2,000. 2,000, there's still 3,000. It's always going to be continually going. You achieve more the higher you go. But I thought that was interesting to hear that from someone who's seasoned in it. That be his main advice. And then that be also something that we talked about in the very, very early stages of our podcast, which at this point now is 1.5 years ago. So like that was kind of like a full circle moment for me. And especially also, you know, talking about Gideon, just feeling inclined to start living a life for God, and that being something that you and I are in our content also in support of, and like how can we be an influence and leave an impact in that regard through our content. I think it'd be really cool to eventually one day collaborate with him.
Oh yeah,
on something like that'd be super sweet
for sure.
But yeah, just thought I'd share, you know, a little something from my YouTube time today.
That's interesting that they were not neglecting it. Like they were somewhat in support of what Gideon did, like considering all the stuff that happened between Logan and George Janko, the George Janko show. Also someone that'd be cool to collab with. But like how the falling out and everything happened between George and Logan, and now them be not only like not necessarily in support of Gideon, but like respecting what he did, talking about forgiveness on Logan's podcast, kind of just an interesting,
Yeah.
a whole interesting thing.
What's crazy is that is the probably most popular YouTube podcast. It's got to be one of them.
Impulsive?
Yeah. It's got to be one of them. I mean, it's like one of the longest tenured. You have one of the most influential YouTubers.
I mean, what are they rocking? 400 episodes?
Close to it. They've had two of the biggest. They've had two major incidents with Christians and their show, like two crosshairs, like having like with George, like you're talking, and then Gideon. But it's crazy that like he's now on the path of like I'm dedicating to Christianity, a lot less money, a lot less clout, a lot less status of compared to what Jake and Logan got going on. So they were involved with him. They were involved with George. They also, like you said, they're not neglecting it. They were like, oh, that's cool that he's taking the step that way. Which I don't know if that was like their like media head saying like this is probably the smart thing to say, or like that's what we actually believe.
But no, I don't think they have media responses. I think they have legit responses. I don't think they care about having like what we're supposed to say.
Yeah, because I guess if I'm thinking about it now, like after saying that out loud, the more like media response would be to neglect that and decline that as being something that is cool.
Also, just I don't think people tell Logan what to say. I think he kind of just says whatever's in his mind.
I don't know, man. I feel like he could be wrapped up in that like Hollywood, kind of blackmail scene.
I just think he's a smart individual. Like, I think the way his mind works, I think he's a smart guy, but I just like I don't think you're going to tell Logan what he's going to say. I think he has his beliefs and he's going to say it, and obviously that's what I think about him.
Could be true. We don't know. We're just speculating.
We're rambling.
We're a small podcast.
We are small.
On YouTube.
We are small.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.